Hello, welcome to my channel, Another Bibliophile Reads. My name is Greg. I was a judge for the final round for the nonfiction nominations in the BookTube Prize. And I'm going to give you my rankings of those 6 books, and then I'm going to tell you my impressions of the winners in all 3 categories, and then give a final summation on what I thought it was like to be a judge for the BookTube Prize for 3 rounds. For this round, all my books were audiobooks. And at ranking number 6, How the Word is Passed, A Reckoning with the History of Slavery Across America by Clint Smith. This was a fine book. I enjoyed it, but it was more or less a collection of essays dealing with such subjects as the descendants of Sally Hemings and Thomas Jefferson and the riots in Angola prison, and how race and the history of slavery are still with us today. As I said, there's nothing bad I have to say about this book other than it did not make a lasting impression on me. And that is essentially why I put it at 6th place. At 5th place, Under a White Sky, The Nature of the Future by Elizbeth Kolbert. And again, this is essentially a collection of essays of how humanity is trying to mitigate some of the damage we are doing to this planet through our own actions with global climate change. Each individual essay was engaging and intelligent, but as a whole, the book did not captivate me and did not make a lasting impression. And perhaps, given the serious nature of global climate change, it probably should have made a more lasting impression. But that's why I put it at 5th place. For places 4 and 3, these 2 books could be interchanged. I spent a few days deciding which one I wanted in each spot, and my final ranking, I would have been equally happy switching those 2. But in the end, I had to pick a 4th and 3rd place winner. So at 4th was Chasing Me to My Grave, an artist's memoir of the Jim Crow South by Winfred Rembert. I actually really enjoyed this memoir. It had a lot of good details about growing up in the Jim Crow South and growing older and seeing some changes in racial relations. And this book was originally by the artist telling his story to an author and then having that author put everything down into a memoir. So it worked really well as an audiobook because the cadence of the artist's speech just came across very well in that audiobook. At place number 3 was Facing the Mountain, a true story of Japanese-American heroes in World War II by Daniel James Brown. Now, I have read a few other books about the internment camps in the United States and just how deplorable the United States government treated citizens of the United States. But this one went a little bit further and described how the Japanese were genuine heroes during World War II. And that's why I put it at number 3. Number 2 came as a big surprise to me. When I first received the list of the books I had to read for this, I was absolutely sure that it would be in 6th place because just the overarching description just sounded like it'd be a dull text of academia, but it was far from that. And at number 2 is A Little Devil in America, Notes in Praise of Black Performance by Hanif Abdurraqib. And I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed it is he has a very engaging style. When I was listening to this audiobook, I kept trying to imagine the text on the page, and there are parts which seem to almost become stream of consciousness. And there was one story, and again, this is like the third book, which is essentially a collection of essays, but he was talking about the old TV show Soul Train. Now, when I was a kid, I saw the tail end of that TV show a number of times because it played before a show that I like to watch. I'm pretty sure that show was the 11 p.m. creature feature on Saturday night. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that was the show. So I would tune in at like a 10:58.5 or 10:58, and Soul Train would still be playing. And the way that television station ran things, they were a little loosey-goosey on the times. So sometimes the creature feature would start at 11:10, 11:15, maybe 11:20. So I sometimes had to watch through the end of Soul Train. And as a kid, I just did not get it. But through this audiobook, I understood that there was so much more going on in that little TV show, and how I was watching it, but not observing it. And I think that's what won me over, is that it surprised me. I was expecting something to hate, and it's something that I really liked. And I think that surprise is what pushed it to number 2. And of course, the number 1 spot belonged to Empire of Pain, The Secret History of the Sackler Dynasty by Patrick Radden Keefe. And this is just an amazing work of journalism. So well researched, so well written. And it just tells a story that makes me angry. And it makes me angry because the Sacklers let the opioid epidemic happen because it lined their pockets with money. And it made me mad because really there was no government oversight that was any bit effective to stop this. Again, because they were making a lot of money. So that was my number 1. Down to the actual winners of the Book 2 prize. Coming up with nonfiction, bronze was Facing the Mountain, and that fit exactly with my ranking, so happy there. Their silver was Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe, and that surprised me a bit. I was sure this book was going to sweep into first place with very little issue. And the gold, I am surprised, because the gold was How the Word is Passed by Clint Smith, the book that I ranked number 6. And I guess my fellow BookTube judges just disagreed with me. So maybe there is more to that book than I picked up on. For translated fiction, I was a judge for the first round in translated fiction. Of the 6 books that I judged, none of them are in the final round. My top pick was the book of Mother, and that did not make it to the second round. And of these 3 books, I know nothing. Bronze was The Brickmakers by Sylvia Amada. Silver was The Art of Losing by Alice Zenter. And gold was The Anomaly by Herve. Now, I've heard the brief description of The Anomaly, and I think I'm going to put that on my watch list on Amazon, so I will buy that. For fiction, the bronze was The Great Circle by Maggie Shipstead. I did not read this as a judge for the Book 2 prize. I picked it up on my own, and I DNF'd it. I know a lot of people love this book, but for whatever reason, I was not gelling with me at the time that I read it, but there's nothing really that I could say was wrong with the book, other than I just wanted to move on to a different book and not read it. Silver is a book that I know nothing about, and that was The Island of Missing Trees by Alif Sharek. The Gold was a book that I did read in my round for fiction, and a book that I did nominate in second place. And that was The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois by Henri Fanon Jeffers. And this was just a fascinating, overarching history of an African-American family. And I'm not surprised that this book won first place. After I read it, even though I only placed it in second place, I said, this book is going to win, because I think it hits all the right marks for a lot of the readers who are book 2 judges. What do I think about being a judge? I really enjoyed it. It got me to read 18 books. No, actually 17 books that I would not have probably read otherwise. I had read one of the nominations, and that was The Magician, who did not make it to the final round. But of those 17 books, I really enjoyed reading all but one of them. And the one that I did not read was in the translated fiction category, and that was My Brilliant Life by Aaron Kim. And I just did not like that, because I just found it an overly sentimental book about a dying child. But still, I am glad I was a judge. I'm happy that I stuck my toe in to each of the 3 categories and got to sample a little bit of each. I am going to be a judge next year, but I think I'm going to just stick with one category and delve a little bit deeper into just one of them. I'm supposing that's going to be non-translated fiction, because I remember reading some comments that it was a little hard to get enough judges for that category. So that's what I'm going to do. And if you're watching this and you are not a judge, I can highly recommend being a judge. You may not be selected for each round, but I think you will find it highly enjoyable and enlightening. Well, thank you for watching. Keep on reading.